food packages for milk, cheese, yogurt, and much more. So the plastic gets produced by bullets, little bullets produced by Dow Company. So Dow Company sells bags of 25 kilo, these little bullets, for preventing an early expiring of the food. They make 3 layers of plastic. The middle layer is called saran. So saran is very destructive. They produce it at night when people sleep, because see how it works. So the 3 types of bullets go in a pyramid, which is on top of the producing metal block that is heating up to 120 Celsius. So the bullets get in the pyramid up near the ceiling. They go through a tube and getting mixed and melted in the metal head, which is very warm. And then the 3-layer plastic goes over aluminium rolls to cool it down. But often the thickness need to be regulated of the plastic. Often it's too thin, and what happens when it's too thin? It rips open. So then they need to run to the head where the melted plastic comes out, and they need to stop the production machine, because the middle layer is the saran layer. The saran is very toxic, so people know when something happens with the production, they need to put on gas mask, because if you don't have a gas mask, the saran will cut off your breath, your breathing. So the time they have the thickness of the plastic again in control, there can be 100, 120 kilos of a mass of melted plastic that becomes harder by contact in the air, that cools quite slowly, but it hardens quite fast. Then they need to put the big block of melted toxic plastic on a wooden pallet to transport it at the backside of the factory, where it can cool down until morning when all people sleep. So the people that lived near the factory, they have got open windows in summer, and often the smoke of the evaporating plastic with saran was going into the rooms, and many people got disease by breathing in unconscious the toxic cloud that was hanging in the neighborhood and the backside of the factory. I came home every day with a lot of microplastics on my clothes. But before I went out of the factory, I needed to blow myself off with high pressure. Before you eat, you need to blow yourself off with high pressure, but still, there is so much microplastics from every production machine, and there are about 14 production machines, because the sides need to be cut, and that goes back up into the pyramid where it goes mixed, and then it bottle all over the air in the factory, all these super fine microplastics. So the people that needed to cut the bad plastic rolls, the bad produce, they were in a separate room, totally like isolated by walls and no windows. They couldn't see any other people. One man was doing the work, like cutting with a mill all the bad plastic, and the man was so white all the time from the microplastics. But imagine, even when you wear a mask, you're still gonna get it in the body. You're still gonna get it on the skin, and the skin is like a sponge. It will absorb microplastics because the parts are very, very tiny. It's like very fine snow that is coming down from the ceiling and in the factory all the time. Imagine how many people that got into health problems very soon. I mean, 20, 25 years. Some got retired, but there was no really retirement. They got sick and passed away because of their work in the well-paid chemical plastic produce. So think about it. When you use plastic, you are demanding for more. Reduce your plastic use and there will be less demand for production. So it's about us. The government in Belgium said at the end, when I was working in the factory, I came home with clogged up nose every day, and then I was bleeding in the morning from my nose all the time. So finally the doctor wrote a letter and told me to stop there for my own health. So think about that. Belgium has in the Scheldt River millions and millions of micro microplastics, and nobody can clean it out because it's by people that throw plastic bottles, plastic bags on the edges of the rivers. It was going into the mud, and it is there for years, and finally in the thick mud are millions of microplastic parts. So think about yourself, because the government said we're going to change it into glass production, but it never happened. Even the plastic factory was getting bigger and getting more employees and was doing more shifts. So, because humanity's demand for plastic. So be consciousness and avoid plastic. And finally, it's all about our choices. So if we don't use plastic, we avoid it, then there will be less production. Because the microplastics ending in the soils, in the foods, and finally in what we eat. So just don't drop your bottle, your bag anywhere. Don't ask for more, because they're gonna produce more. Use your own fabric bag, which is lasting longer, or bring your stuff home without any plastic. You can use carton. Carton can be used for compost with brown material, but plastic cannot. There is no solution in many countries for plastic. I mean, for they just dump it somewhere in the ground on a big field, but that has consequences for the environment. So think